Okay, before we adjourn, we're going to allow 2 minutes per speaker if you want to say something, please.
I did want to address Ron's comment that I was being volatile in the CDD meeting. So if you peel back the onion, if you look, if you really dive into it, a certain group of people feel as though they're being discriminated against by, let's say Group A feels they're being discriminated by against Group B. Okay? Group B says, oh, you're making it up, nothing's happening, we're not discriminating against you. Okay. Group A raises their voice a little more loudly. Hey, we feel like things are not, we feel like you're targeting us, you feel discriminated. Group B says, oh, there's nothing there, go away. What happens? Third time around, things get even more volatile. Fourth time around, there's protest, right? Fifth time around, there's revolution. Let's go back in history, guys. American Revolution, what happened? Right? The settlers said, hey, Britain, hey, English, we feel like we're not being treated fairly. Right? They said it again and again and again. What happened? Boston Tea Party. What happened after that? American Revolution. Let's do something even more recent. The civil rights. Right? Oh, we're not African Americans. We're not feeling like we're being treated equal. Okay? What happened? Said it a little louder. The Million Man March. Okay? Let's go even more recent. Right? Let's talk about the Me Too movement. We feel like we're not being treated. Right? Females feel like they're not being treated, and they're absolutely right. They speak a little louder. They've been saying this through the 80s, to the 90s. People weren't listening to them. Boom, you get the Me Too movement. Okay? Police brutality. Okay? We feel like people are not being treated equally. Right? Police are brutalizing a certain group more than the other group. They said it again and again. Nobody listened. What happens? Protest. What happens then? Somebody takes a stand, you kneel at a football game, right? You got a revolution, right? So the worst thing you can do is be that Group B and say, there's nothing there, there's no discrimination, there's nothing there. And that's all I'm saying, right? So yes, I'm hostile because A, I've said it to people, 2006 I've said it, people all the way up until now have said it, nobody's listening. So yeah, at the last meeting I finally stood up and said something. And if you guys say that there's still nothing there, watch out, we're going to get a protest here and we'll be on the news. I guarantee it. Because that's what's going to happen.
Thank you.
Is that...
Wait, hold on.
You said I was being hostile last week, I'm telling you why. I'm telling you why I was being hostile.
2 minutes, Don, go ahead.
2 to 3 questions I asked earlier. So, as a POA, we do force flowing. You mentioned you as a neighbor had done it, that's great. But we used to actually spend money just to make that happen for POA. So that, still curious about that. And 2, also about the information portal that we use.
Thank you.
May I come in, Mr. President?
2 minutes, sir.
I don't need but a minute. If you haven't, it's one thing to speak a revolution, it's another thing to be part of it. So, the only revolution we need in this neighborhood is to restore and maintain and restore our home back. There's going to be difference in people, and diversity isn't about how you look. Diversity is about inclusion. It's about what you think, that your thoughts are valued more so than how you look. Because you can set the table with 100 people, and 2 people have an opinion. But when we get, I think, to your point, that the people in Capri Island can speak for themselves. I think they have and demonstrated that. I think even when you disagree, there should be an element of respect that you should have. Because that's what you asked for. That's what everyone in this room has asked for, and I think everyone's trying to give that. So if you want a revolution, there's 2 parties in a revolution. You started, but you may not get an opportunity to finish. That's all I got to say. Be careful with your start.
Mr. Akoff, you certainly respected us today, but did you respect us in 2017 when Dr. Patel and I got on the board?
Well, maybe you didn't respect yourself at that time. Maybe you should go back, and the questions asked that I asked you earlier, you told me where I come from, where have you gone? And I'll leave it at that. Now, if you want to start a testosterone down here, that's not what I'm here for, but I'm prepared.
Well, respect is a two-way street, Mr. Akoff.
Dr. Ray, I haven't insulted anybody here, but if you want to testosterone down, proceed.
You have insulted, sir, in the past.
In the past, have I done it tonight?
No.
Have I done it this year? Have I done it since you've been on the board, Eric?
All right, you guys had your two
Let it
minutes.
go, man.
Bruce, go ahead,
Start
please.
it.
On 2
Start it
minutes.
up.
I'm sorry, I don't feel like I got an answer to my question before. Maybe it's because I got off on a tangent there for a couple things. But what specifically is the plan for limiting the hours of the property owners association? Is that a plan that's currently now being implemented? Is it being considered? Or you're dropping from 5 days to 1 day as a given? If that's the case, what are we saving there? I mean, what does that save us?
Say it was 40,000 a year, and it's actually, it's going to structure the inspection differently than we did prior.
And at 1 day, is there a member of the property owners association here with us tonight? I don't really know everybody, who everybody is, I'm sorry. But can they do their job in 1 day effectively?
As needed, they'll be on site.
So how do we determine as needed? Can we just, what does that look like? Somebody goes around the neighborhood and says, oh, I see a lot of.
No, they're going to do an inspection once a week, if need be, more than once, and they'll complete a task that's been laid out for that kind of time. So basically, you're going to go around, say for example, if you're going to go around the community and look at the lawn, you're going to do 983 lawn.
Right, they feel like they can do their job in 1 day, and they're good for the week.
They don't have to do it as needed. If more time is needed, they'll continue to do it.
Okay.
Until that's done. Because again, the goal is to inspect every house across the board. A blanket inspection. We're not going to do one grass and another. The whole community will inspect it across the board.
It is the goal of the board to enforce the deed restrictions in totality. Everything, I mean, is there anything that you're kind of laxing on? Like I mentioned before, there are things that are.
Yeah, relaxing the statutes on mailboxes. That's what
things.
That's one of the pet peeves of the community is the statues in the mailbox, certain lengths. I think they had an outrage in that last year on the statute, but we're not laxing on anything.
Okay, so everything's good. If we see something that's in violation of the deed restrictions, that's being reported and is being enforced.
Yeah, the process basically everyone is afforded a due process. Basically, a due process will take 90 days, and then onward from there. So basically, an infraction letter goes out. If you do not correct it with a certain amount of time, another letter goes out. Third letter goes out, then a registered mail comes to you, and then we take it from there. We're fine, goes before the CEC. After the CEC is done with levying the fine, you have so many days to pay that fine. If not, the attorney will take action as required.
But there's no wiggle room for certain things, you know.
There's no
Like
expeditious
planters in yards.
enforcement. No expeditious enforcement.
Okay.
If you see something and you want to report something to the CAM, we discourage you from doing that. The CAM has his job, he has it laid out. And if you do want to submit, be prepared to take it to court if need be and sign an affidavit. So we're not encouraging residents to go and report to other residents because the CAM has a job to do. That's what we pay the CAM to do. So keep that in mind. And please don't knock on your neighbor's door. This is a free state. This is a different state than many northern states where people do not appreciate people knocking on their doors.
Last question, is the decision driving this because we're fiscally unhealthy because of lawsuits or just in general?
I can't comment on lawsuits or what's driving it. It's just a measure that the board saw fit for the community moving forward, whereas we'll have equitable enforcement as we did last year. But it's just we move to a different platform and we do things differently this time around.
So the goal is to get more fiscally healthy regardless. And
Not fiscally healthy, not dropping the ball in enforcement to get fiscally healthy. You work together. You work with a fiscal, being conservative fiscally, and you work with trying to get, or working on getting the enforcement to the same level. So it goes hand in hand. If you have to make a change by leaving the clubhouse or the guard book, we saved a lot of money by doing that. And it just doesn't make sense because most community, if you have homes in different community, you will find that the CAM is not on site. In Meadow Point, in West Meadow, and name it, the CAM's not on site. The CAM come to inspect and then they leave. That's how a community should run.
If we need more than 1 day, if we need 2 days, if we need 3 days, if we need 7 days, which we won't.
So fiscal health is really driving this decision, it's more just policy change.
Policies change, same enforcement.
And is our community fiscally healthy in your opinion, right now?
Yeah, this is not the days of G. Thomas, and this is a
I
different.
heard some special assessment talk, I mean, is there?
A special assessment, if we need to raise money to cover any kind of legal expenses as far as the 25,000 that's attached to our policy to cover the CAM. If we need that, if someone goes after what's in the CAM, we will do a special assessment to raise that 25,000 to cover that.
So I'll leave with one last comment. I know it's not going to be the most popular thing, but I don't necessarily feel as a community homeowner that the goal of the board should be to lower our fees necessarily. Sure, it'd be nice, but if it takes raising them a little bit to get where we need to be, specifically a reserve fund, a healthy reserve fund, which from what I'm hearing we don't have by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe that is required. I mean, it's not the popular decision, but maybe it's the right decision. Maybe it's an extra $10 a month per home for however long. I mean, for me, I think it could be the right decision.
By statute, we can only raise by a certain percentage, and we do have a reserve, $37,000 for the legal expenses. That's why the impact on the community is not that dire, had we had zero in the account.
Okay.
All right, anyone else, 2 minutes?
I'm going to comment about something
Mhm.
about the enforcement. And, anything legally I'm not supposed to say, they just stop me. Everyone talks about covenants. There's a thing called covenants, and that has to be followed, because in order to change those rules, you have to have 51% of all the houses, not 51% of the voters, change it. And then there's the DRC manual. A lot of the things that aren't being enforced, pots, ornaments on top of mailboxes, they were there during previous boards, even though it was in the DRC, someone put it in the DRC manual. They weren't enforced upon them, except once in a while, someone would get enforced, I don't know why. But we look at it as reflecting the reality of the situation. Previous boards never enforced it, at least not in mass. We tried enforcing in mass, June of 2018, and it was very unpopular. The community made it loud and clear. They don't want those changes. Other boards haven't touched it, so we haven't touched it. I personally don't see what's wrong if you have more than 2 planters. I personally don't see what's wrong if you have a mailbox ornament. Even though I don't have one, I think my neighbor who has one, it's beautiful. So,
I guess the question is,
if
where
you
do
have
draw
a
the
dirty
line?
roof,
Right. Where you draw the line, and that's
If
what
you-
the infrastructure is for. What's nice to you,
yeah,
may be horrid to this gentleman.
I agree.
And that's how you keep things even in a community.
It's not perfect. No board is going to be God. They're going to do the best they can. Now, if you have a tarp on your roof and you don't have a good reason for it, well, yeah, you're going to get a fine. If you didn't paint your mailbox or it's really dirty, yeah, you're going to get a fine. But a few planters, mailbox ornament, we're not going to make. Yeah,
It's what their condition of them are. It's
We
what
don't,
the issue
we don't believe in enforcing in something that hasn't been enforced by previous boards. Yes, Rick.
Okay, just to add what you just said, there are so many things. I don't think it should be bothered to anybody. One issue which came to the board about 2 years ago when we both were sitting there, curbing. Curbing has to be by one piece, what they call it,
Continuous cement.
continuous cementing or foundation kind of a curbing. That is what covenant said or a DRC manual said. Now, in that issue, somebody just brought a stones, a beautiful, good-looking stones, and he just made that curving, and he got a violation notice. Being a board member, I had to go against him, and he was my good friend. I went against my good friend to vote that he is wrong because covenant says, or the DRC manual says, that he cannot have this kind of a curving. What is wrong with him? In the next meeting, we just proposed it. I proposed that if the stones look equally good about whatever that curving, why don't we just allow it? It should be decision of DRC committee that is equally good, that it should be allowed. So those kind of things which is written in 92, which doesn't apply in 2019, I think the manual, if it can be changed by DRC and the POA board, few things it should be refined to fit today's conditions rather than just carry forward that same old shit. And I'm sorry for my expression, but that doesn't apply today. And what is wrong in that kind of a curving with the nice, good-looking stone instead of that just a poor foundation? So there are so many things like that. One thing, there was a tulsi, which is a religious plant in India. It doesn't attract any bugs, doesn't give any bad
It
smell,
repels bugs.
doesn't have any kind of a health hazard. All the people, those who have that plant, they were given summons that they have to remove it and we enforce it, and we ask them to remove those plants from the front yard or the driveway. So those to me it's nonsense. We have to accommodate certain things. We have to change by the time. We cannot continue living with whatever it was written 30, 40 years ago. So please, if board can do it, try to make some changes.
Okay, let me address that. The covenant is a contract between the community and the POA. It has to be enforced as is. Any change in the covenant has to be done via 51% or 51% of the homes in the community to change that. The DRC was written by whoever was a victor during that time. They created rules that were not in conjunction with the covenant, which I have seen and read and actually highlighted. Fruit trees are in the covenants. Your fence, whatever decoration you want in your fence, whatever color is there, whatever color you want on your borders is in the covenant. It's not specific as written in DRC. If you're going to enforce based on the covenant, your DRC has to reflect whatever's in the covenant. How can you enforce a contract or items in a contract that you did not agree on, that you did not sign in the document? It's a breach. It's a breach of the contract. So you could have pink borders, green borders, yellow borders. It's all in the covenant. Read the covenant. The DRC manual is a total departure from the covenant. You could have your fences in blocks. You can have your fences however you want to have it. You can have fences. See, the covenant, the DRC is a total departure. And I read it. I've gone through it, back and forth, between the two documents. So whoever wrote the DRC, and I'm not going to get into that, who wrote it. Again, to the victor goes the spoil.
And why they wrote it.
Or why they wrote it. But we're not going to get into that. But I can assure you one thing. Enforcement are going to be done and be done according to what the covenant says. And the DRC is going to reflect whatever the covenant says. So we're not going to have this misunderstanding of what needs to be enforced upon and what not. If you do have a problem, read the covenant. You sign that contract. And that contract binds this POA to enforce whatever is written there. So the departure from the contract that I've observed when I came back to this community to 2015, it's a shame that someone would actually write a DRC manual to enforce in this community without looking at the covenant. Mrs. Barman?
Okay, first of all, I believe, my impression was, my understanding was, that when a new homeowner came into this community at the closing for his new home, he was supposed to have been given a copy of the covenants to read. And that was understood, he signed, when he accepted the copy of the covenant, that this was the contract you're referring to.
Correct.
He was going to read it and he was going to abide by what it said. That's number one. Number two, I think the covenants and the DRC manual included in that category was meant to ensure some level of continuity in the community. It reflects somebody's level of what's good taste. That doesn't mean it's everybody's idea of what's good taste. But there are some people's taste in here that I don't, let's just say it's not my taste. But if it's allowed, it's allowed. I would like to make a comment about the mailbox ornaments. Some of them frankly, I find a little tacky. I don't happen to have them, that's my personal desire. But my concern goes much further than that. I don't know that there's any requirement for how those ornaments are to be attached to the mailbox itself. And I'm thinking of if there's a time of high wind, and we do get storms with high wind, or God forbid a hurricane, that could be a flying projectile and could cause a lot of damage unintentionally if the winds carry it to somebody's window that doesn't have protective film on it. By the same token, people that have homes with tiles on, I don't know how securely those
Bingo.
tiles are attached.
Right.
That could be another flying projectile. I would think that for safety reasons, it would be a good idea to say, let's forego having the ornaments on the mailboxes. I don't think that's too hard of it. You have the whole interior of your home to decorate in your style and your taste, and it's available for you to enjoy, but it doesn't mean you have to inflict your taste on anybody else. Just, you can enjoy it, and it goes up to hay, as we say, enjoy it, good health. But I think that we have to think about the safety part of it, and we have to think about the fact that we want some kind of a level of taste, of uniformity that makes our community look cared for, like somebody has like some kind of a standard. And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You may think that the stone is gorgeous, I may not like it. But if it's in there and somebody has said that's what we ought to have, that's what we ought to abide by. But it does mean that you have it on the red the covenant so that you know it's
Just precisely why they're written for communities like
right.
this.
It's for our protection as much as anything else.
That is the very fabric of why they were written for communities like this. Because everybody has diverse tastes.
Well, this community was designed for 1 acre lots and homes, and certain restrictions applied, garages and whatever were applied to those homes. Over the years, due to financial difficulty from what I saw in the documentation I got from the developer through that court case, people and companies that start developing in this community were given leeway to have it their way. Whatever they want to put, if they want to put the garages in front, so be it. They were all given that leeway. That's why when you go on that side of Cory Lake Ave, you'll see all the garages are facing the streets, whilst certain part of the community has a garage which is side loads. There's a precedent that was set in this community. When Avatar came in this community, they were given free reign, barring whatever was in the covenant. They actually went outside of what was in the covenant. Your setbacks are a mess. Your setbacks should be certain feet from the lake, from the side of your property. It's a mess. What happened? This community, it was a free-for-all when Avatar was here. And you witness it, you read the covenant, you will see the difference. You read the covenant to say your setback should be 25 feet and this and that if you live on a lake or if you live on a conservation, we'll get to you. And so those are things you're facing. So where do you enforce while your neighbor's setback is right in the lake and you have a setback that you're looking for to be what your neighbor has? Basically, we had cases like that went before against the developer for the same thing. So the only solution I can see is a rewrite of the covenant, and everybody has to be board, and everybody has to write it, from 1.1 all the way to 11.7. Not just pieces. You can't piecemeal this thing. And that's one thing, whoever board come on, sits here next year, I think that should be a priority for the whole community, because we have changed Capri Isle. It's totally different. It was slated for townhomes. I remember the mess that was there, and it actually bailed out the community. So where do you enforce? How do you enforce when you have, certain parts communities built certain way, certain parts were given given a lot of liberty to develop how they want to? Covenantary right, that's the only thing.
Another part of the explanation as to why there's so much differentiation, I think, but a piece to the puzzle, is that originally, I think Gene Thomas's intention was to bring in only custom builders, to have custom homes, so every home was going to be different.
That was the intention.
Yes, I'm saying, that's what I thought was.
Yes, you did.
And I don't think he got so far with that, and then he couldn't interest more custom builders to come in, for people to buy individual lots. And if he was going to be successful at all commercially, he had to open it up to what they call production building.
Correct.
My home is a production home, and that means that you take the builder's plan as is. You don't make any adjustments or any alterations. You don't add a half a foot here, or raise that ceiling, or change that part of the entryway, or what do they call it? Not the word, the entryway. The elevation. You can't change your elevation. It has to be only what his model is. And I don't know whether that affected other people's feeling, I might be a little bit unique and a little bit different, or whatever. That's part of the explanation.
It did. I mean, that was difficult for us. We bought a lot, built a custom home, and then the next thing we have a production home. And for us, that was a huge hit, which is why it's so important that we try and maintain the integrity that we have, at least at the level we do, because it's hard for me to maintain a custom home and sell it at that price when there's a production home down the street that costs $70,000 less to build the same, square footage. So, I mean, that is a little bit of an issue. And real quick, I do have a question. So, Harry, you were a little bit involved in this, but on this whole stretch where we first bought and built, all of the garages were side facing, and, you were able to email exchange I had. So is that not part of it anymore? So
That's not part of the covenant. The covenant was written where side loaders are the only ones who build. Granted, if you have an approval from the DRC to build what you have to, whatever you want to. So the promises were made to a lot of people who build those custom homes, but it was never written. No one signed on a dotted line to enforce any kind of contractual obligation to build your house a certain way.
Well, we did. We had a different set of these restrictions when we first moved in and built. That's all gone by the wayside. But, so it isn't enforceable even in our area, so it's just anybody can build a front-facing garage?
Correct. Try the whole community, because again, the key is approval from the DRC, and approval basically based on what's in the community itself.
So even if it's written, so what you're saying is, if it's written in the covenants that it was side facing or whatever, but the DRC approves a front facing.
No. Under that statement, it says, unless the DRC approves otherwise.
Okay, so it was written, but then if the DRC approves to say, okay, you can go front facing.
Yeah, I think it's 11. I don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But
I think it also was stipulated by phase. I think there was a certain phase that mandated side-facing garages.
Yeah.
Certain phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and so, but all that went to the wayside too, because the restriction for the phase were never actually enforced, because the developers came in with their own plan and actually implemented whatever they want to, and folks were silent about that, during that time. And that's one of the things that we have beautiful homes in certain phases, but we have production home in other phases that offsets and looks, So the community was, the development of the community was based on financial motivation. And we all know that. We've gone through that, and we've seen the records in that. So what are we to do now? And the only thing I can give you, the only answer I will give you, and I will actually promote it, is rewrite the covenant. And our attorney, he has 30 plus years experience in this type of environment, and I'm sure that he will have great ideas if we were to embark on that.
But we can pay thousands of dollars to rewrite it, but how are you going to get 51% of all the houses? I mean, Louise, you think that's doable?
It would take quite an effort.
It's next to impossible.
We tried.
Next to impossible, yes,
So
you did.
So how about we put together some folks and we actually brainstorm it next year and actually work through it?
But I think before we go through all the effort, Louise and others have spent hours and countless number of hours going through the effort. I think first the solution has to be, how do you get, what do we have, 963? So 480 homes, 481 homes. How do you get 481 homes to vote? That solution has to come up with before.
Owners, they're on some of them by corporations. And then how do you know what the relationship is between who's living in the house and who is representing the corporation?
Bingo! Yes, Don?
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of talk about change, you know, they have throughout the years. And I know Dr. Ray will say I'm a purist when it comes to the rules. But before we do a wholesale change in our covenants, for those of us that have been here for a long period of time, I've seen over the years, I've seen as a board member, those covenants have served us pretty well as a community.
The covenants of the DRC.
There's a handful of items, fences, fruit trees, ornaments, but truly just a handful of items that I've been aware of, and this is my opinion, that have been contentious. So I just fear, I guess, as a long-term homeowner, that we're going to just change them willy-nilly or significantly away from a pretty good standard that we've had as a community that has helped to keep the community as one of the top ones in the area.
Well, tell me, what have we enforced on? It says no mailbox ornaments. Do you think, Don, if we clone 4 more of you, and put all of you on this board, you can get rid of them?
You told, well, I have an ornament, and it's over the 12 inches specified, and I've had there since 2004. The board last year, 2018, said take them all down, so I took mine down. I saluted and complied, because rules are rules. But then you guys reversed it, so okay, clean it up and put it back on there. The standard of 51% to change our covenants is nearly impossible, to be quite honest.
Agreed.
I don't envision how that's going to happen. Now, conversely, I'm a little concerned on the last election, there were some propositions put in there that talk about how to change that percent, if you will. But they basically came down, if you read them, they eventually died and were taken off the plate. It basically gave you, the 4 or 5 board members, the ability to change them. And I was vastly against that, I was vocal about it, because whatever board's in there currently, and it's going to change every year, every couple of years, I don't want the 4 or 5 people in charge at one time to have that kind of power to change our covenants, because it is so profound, it is so significant.
It takes 51% of all homes to change it, Don.
At this point.
And we will never agree to have a board of 5 individuals dictate the direction of this community. You know, I'll fight it if I'm not on the board and you have an amendment to the covenant goes through like that. It's not fair.
I agree wholeheartedly. We're strongly agree there.
Thank you.
Out of curiosity, I wanted to know, what is the recent verdict from the Supreme Court of Florida about the fruit trees in the front yard or backyard of the house? There is some kind of a drastic opinion from the Supreme Court of Florida, is that correct?
No, there was a statutory attempt to try to address it, and I believe that failed in the last legislative session, if I'm not mistaken. Or what was adopted was kind of a watered down version. I can certainly look that up if that's something the board is interested in.
But the covenant does have fruit trees in it.
It was more like a gardening thing. I think.
Oh, yeah, it's the point like
Yeah.
What does the covenant say about fruit trees? You can or
You
cannot?
can have fruit trees on your property, that's what the covenant says. Read the covenant. I can't quote.
No, I know the answer.
So why did every time other alternate meeting of POA, there is some mention of fruit trees, so where do we stand?
I agree with you. There's a lot of issues that people disagree on. It's not just fruit trees, but I don't know how that became a buzzword.
It applies to municipalities.
Yeah, Doug is right, that you reminded me of that.
Not
What was eventually adopted as a gardening ordinance, but there was a version of it that was attempted to apply to HOAs that failed in the legislature.
So HOA, POA covenants trumped
I see.
that legislation, if I read it correctly.
Well, but there is no legislation that applies to the POA and the HOAs. It only applies to cities. Cities can't stop people from having gardens in their front yard, basically, is what it came down to.
Cities can or cannot?
Cannot.
But an HOA.
So what about HOA?
But HOAs can.
Can't, POA.
Yeah.
I think our HOAs, I think the issue, I could be wrong, was not that our covenants explicitly said you could have fruit trees. I think it specifies what you can have.
That's what I was just
And
saying.
fruit trees were not included in it.
Right.
Fruit trees is a word that was written in the covenant as part of your decor on your property. Please reread the covenant, I think it's in section 11. But I did read that, and the last line was basically the decor should be flower, fauna, fruit trees.
I've read it multiple times.
Whose decision was that, what kind of a fruit trees I can have or I cannot have?
Again, I'm just a person here.
I'm just curious to know.
My understanding of the covenants were, here's a couple different pages that specify what you may have.
I see.
And it did specify any fruit trees, as far as I remember and recall.
I suspect that what was put into the covenant was to protect us from any invasive species that could come and take over and, disrupt the whole eco cycle and make a problem for that.
The citrus tree are the indigenous of Florida. If the person has a citrus tree, that is not going to take over any other trees, right?
No, that's a different issue from what I understand. I understand that I have never had fruit trees, so I don't want to have this problem ever. I understand the city of Tampa has had quite a problem with it. I understand they attract something called a fruit rat. And a fruit rat is very, very difficult to get rid of. I remember hearing or reading somewhere that even if you found you had a problem and you called somebody to try and get rid of the problem, first of all, it would be very expensive. It would be to the children $6,000, and then it might not work the first time. You might have to have it done again. I would not like to have rats in my house. Under any
I agree with you,
circumstances.
one day I was out of curiosity, I was reading the rodents in the city and all these things, but their principal diet in our community is the palm fruit tree, the palm tree fruits. Whatever the small thing that is any, the squirrel loves it. All the rodents love it. So how we can get rid of all the palm trees?
Well, for what it's worth, I know in Hawaii, they use little metal bands to preclude the rodents running up the
Yeah, but this is the principal food supply. As long as that food supply is in this neighborhood, they are not going to go anywhere else.
I don't know, maybe the rats are going to try to do that.
And just to clarify something, whether it's basketball courts, whether it's fruit trees, I personally don't care, but I do care about adherence to the covenants.
And bear in mind when you talk about pests, rodents and everything, right behind us is flatwoods.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever take a walk or a ride at the crack of dawn, which is here everybody's heading for the woods from Cory Lake House. So they came to visit overnight and they headed back over there. Because, we have a lot of traffic here. We have squirrel, who are kind of, had his end via somebody's car on Cory Lake. So everybody's heading back to the bushes at 6 o'clock in the morning. And, we're inundated with all kinds of creatures. Snakes, I caught one yesterday. Rats, possums, the raccoons, they're at nights, they cross the road and no traffic, free reign, Cory Lake High, let's go. And in the morning, they've done their business, they're headed back home. So, so bear in mind, so when you complain about fruit trees, fruit flies, whatever, they're coming over, And it's only going to get worse because, again, we are encroaching on their habitats. And when that floods, everybody comes here.
In fact, that's the number one.
We used to have peacocks at the Orange Bridge Day. I haven't seen a peacock in a long time.
I spoke to a zoology professor. He says our number one source of rodents is the habitat around us. The marsh.
And they're also, food for certain creatures. So again, the food chain. And we provide safety for them in our garages, our house, around our shrubs, we give them safe havens. So that's why you'll see them come with snakes,
But if no one has anything else, shall we adjourn? What do you think? Second, okay. Adjourn. Thank you for your time. Conversation was beautiful. I'll see you next week, next month.
Thank you all.